The paper cup felt waxy against my lips. Pills rattled in the small plastic container the orderly held out to me. White ones, blue ones, one small yellow tablet. I didn't know what any of them were anymore. "Open up, Mrs. Barrett," he said, not unkindly. "You know the drill." I stared at him. "Harold." "His name tag," said Harold. I'd seen him every morning for how long had it been. The days blurred together in this place. The walls were beige, the floors were beige. Even the light coming through the windows seemed beige, filtered through yellowed blinds that were never fully open. "I don't need these," I said. My voice came out hoarse. When had I last really talked to anyone? "There's nothing wrong with me." Harold sighed. The kind of sigh nurses give to patients they've given up on. "Your daughter says you need them. Doctor's orders." "Come on now. Don't make this difficult." My daughter, Monica. The thought of her sent something cold through my chest. I opened my mouth, placed the pills on my tongue, took a sip of water. Harold watched to make sure I swallowed, then moved on to the next room. The moment he left, I spit them into my hand and buried them in the dirt of the potted plant by my bed. Fake plant. Even the greenery here was a lie. I was 71 years old. I'd been a high school English teacher for 33 years. I'd raised 2 children, buried a husband, run a household, managed investments that had grown to over $750,000. I'd read Proust and Dostoevsky and could recite Yeats from memory. My mind was sharp, clear, entirely intact, and I'd been locked in this nursing home for 3 months. 3 months ago, it started with concern. Monica and her husband Derek showing up at my house in Portland with worried faces. They'd been so attentive lately, coming by twice a week, bringing groceries, asking about my health. I'd thought it was sweet, naive of me. "Mom, we need to talk," Monica had said, settling onto my couch like she owned it. She'd always been beautiful, my daughter, dark hair like her father's, my blue eyes, but there was something hard in her face that day, something I'd chosen not to see. "We've been noticing things," Derek added. He was a financial consultant, handsome in that bland corporate way, always wearing golf shirts and talking about market trends. "You've been forgetting things, repeating yourself. We're worried." I'd laughed. "I'm 71, not senile. I forgot to call you back last Tuesday because I was at a book club meeting. That's not dementia. That's being busy." "Mom." Monica's voice had gone soft, pitying. "That should have been my first warning. You called me 4 times last week asking if I was coming to Sunday dinner. You forgot we'd already talked about it." I hadn't. I'd called her once, maybe twice, but she was so certain. And Derek was nodding, backing her up. "We think you should see someone," Monica said. "A specialist, just to be sure." I'd agreed. Why wouldn't I? I was confident there was nothing wrong. The appointment was at a clinic in Beaverton, a sprawling medical complex that felt more like a corporate office than a hospital. Dr. Shepard was 50-ish, with thin-rimmed glasses and a manner that seemed professional enough. He asked me questions, drew blood, had me do memory tests that I passed easily, but his face stayed neutral, professional. At the end, he called Monica in. "I'm recommending residential care," he said, and my stomach dropped. "Your mother is showing early signs of cognitive decline. She needs 24-hour supervision." "That's not true," I'd said, but my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. "I passed every test you gave me." Dr. Shepard looked at me with what might have been sympathy or might have been well-practiced condescension. "Mrs. Barrett, I understand this is difficult to accept, but the tests show clear signs of confusion and memory loss. For your own safety, I live alone just fine. I drive. I manage my own finances." "That's another concern," Derek interjected. "Mom, we've looked at your bank statements. Some of the purchases don't make sense. Random charges, duplicate bills paid twice." "What?" I turned to him. "I haven't. You've been looking at my accounts? You gave us access, remember?" Monica's hand was on my arm, gentle, restraining. "Last month, when you couldn't figure out the online banking, I hadn't. I'd never given them access, but they had paperwork. They had the doctor's recommendation. They had each other's testimony, and I only had my own word. 2 days later, they drove me to Riverside Manor. Just for a few weeks, Monica promised as we pulled into the circular drive. The building was 3 stories of brick and white trim, with manicured shrubs and a fountain that wasn't running. Until we figure out what's going on. Until you're stable. I wasn't unstable. But no one was listening. The first week, I'd tried to reason with everyone. The nurses, the administrators, the other residents who shuffled through the halls in various states of actual decline. But my chart said I had dementia. My chart said I was a flight risk, prone to confusion and aggression. None of it was true, but once it's written down, once it's official, truth becomes whatever the paperwork says it is. They gave me pills that made my head fuzzy, my thoughts slow. They kept my phone locked in the nurse's station for safekeeping. My purse, my wallet, my keys all stored away. When I demanded to leave, to call my lawyer, they smiled and nodded and told me I could talk to my daughter about it during visiting hours. Monica came once a week. She'd sit in the common room, holding my hand, asking how I was feeling with such false concern that I wanted to scream. Derek never came. He was always too busy. It was week 6 when I overheard them. I wasn't supposed to be in the hallway near the administrative offices. I'd told the floor nurse I was going to the bathroom and taken a different turn. I was testing the boundaries, trying to find a phone, a computer, anything. That's when I heard Monica's voice coming from the office at the end of the hall. Filed the paperwork yesterday. Power of attorney went through. I froze. And the house? That was Derek's voice. Listing goes live Monday. Realtor says we should get at least $600,000 in this market, maybe more. My house on Everett Street, the one I'd lived in for 30 years, where I'd raised my children, where my husband had died in the bedroom upstairs. They were selling it. What about the investment accounts? Derek again, already transferred. $750,000. Dad's life insurance, Mom's savings, everything. It's in our names now. The lawyer said as long as she's been declared incompetent, we're clear. There was a pause. I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing. You sure she can't? I mean, what if Derek sounded nervous? She's not going anywhere. Monica's voice was cold, certain. Dr. Shepard has her on enough medication to keep her compliant, and even if she wasn't, who would believe her? A 71-year-old woman with diagnosed dementia? We have all the documentation. She signed over power of attorney herself. She did? Well, she didn't know what she was signing, but her signature's on it. That's all that matters. I didn't remember getting back to my room. I sat on the edge of my bed, not my bed, the facility's bed with its scratchy sheets and thin mattress, and stared at the wall. My daughter had stolen my life. Not stolen. That was too simple a word. She'd systematically dismantled it, with forged documents and a paid-off doctor and pills that made me forget my own fury. She'd taken my money, my home, my freedom, and locked me away in this beige prison where no one would listen to me. For the first time in 3 months, I cried. Not the confused, frightened tears of someone losing their mind. The clear, sharp tears of someone who understood exactly what had been done to them. And then I stopped crying, because I wasn't losing my mind. And if I wasn't losing my mind, I could fight back. That night, I didn't take the pills. Harold brought them at 8 p.m. like always, and I tucked them under my tongue, swallowed the water, and spit them into the fake plant the moment he left. I did the same thing the next morning, and the morning after that. Within 3 days, the fog began to clear. My thoughts sharpened. The constant drowsiness lifted. I felt more like myself than I had in months, and I started planning. The first thing I needed was an ally, someone who would listen, someone who wasn't on Monica's payroll. Her name was Bethany Chen. She was a night shift nurse, late 20s, with kind eyes and purple highlights in her dark hair. She was the only one who ever really looked at me, who talked to me like I was a person instead of a problem. Mrs. Barrett. "You're looking better," she said one night during her rounds. It was 2 a.m. Most of the residents were asleep, and the hallways were quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights. "I need your help," I whispered. She paused, one hand on my doorframe. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong with me. That's the problem. I don't have dementia. I was committed here fraudulently. My daughter, she's stealing from me. She's sold my house, taken my money. I need to get out. I need to prove what she's done." Bethany stared at me. I could see the conflict on her face, the training that said dementia patients often believe they're being persecuted, versus something in her instincts that recognized truth when she heard it. "Mrs. Barrett, Genevieve, please, just listen." I kept my voice low, urgent. I was a teacher. I have no history of cognitive issues, no family history of dementia. I came in here 3 months ago after one appointment with a doctor I'd never met before. My daughter has power of attorney that I never agreed to. She's selling my house right now as we speak. Please, look at my chart. Really look at it. Does my behavior match someone with dementia? She was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled a chair over and sat down. "Tell me everything," she said. I told her. All of it. The sudden concern, the convenient diagnosis, the overheard conversation about the power of attorney and the house sale. Bethany listened without interrupting, and I watched her face change as she began to believe me. "Oh my God," she said finally. This is elder abuse. This is fraud. You need to report this." "With what?" "They have my phone. I have no money, no ID, no way to contact anyone. My own chart says I'm mentally incompetent. Who's going to believe me?" Bethany stood up, pacing in the small room. "We need evidence, documentation, something concrete." My lawyer would believe me. Benjamin Ortiz. His office is downtown on Morrison Street. If I could just reach him. "I can't just let you leave. I'd lose my license." "I'm not asking you to. But could you make a phone call for me? Tell him what's happening? Ask him to look into the power of attorney, the house sale?" She chewed her lip, thinking. Then she nodded. "Tomorrow, I'll call from my personal phone during my break. But Mrs. Barrett, Genevieve, we need to document everything." "When did you overhear that conversation? What exactly did they say? Do you remember dates, amounts, anything specific?" I did. My memory was perfect, crystal clear. I recited every detail I could remember, and Bethany wrote it down in a small notebook she pulled from her scrubs pocket. Over the next 2 weeks, we built a case. Bethany confirmed that Dr. Shepard had minimal notes in my file, that the cognitive tests showed I'd actually passed with normal results, despite what his report said. She found the signature on my power of attorney papers. It looked like mine, but wasn't quite right. The loops on the G slightly off. She discovered that Dr. Shepard had received a payment of $15,000 from Derek's business account 3 days before my evaluation, and she called Benjamin Ortiz. Ben had been my lawyer for 20 years. He'd handled my husband's estate, my will, my property documents. When Bethany reached him and explained what was happening, he'd immediately started an investigation. "He's filing an emergency motion to freeze your assets," Bethany told me one night, her eyes bright with triumph, "and he's contacting the police about potential fraud and wrongful imprisonment charges. But Genevieve, we need to get you out of here. If Monica finds out what we're doing, she'll move everything offshore, hide the money, disappear the paper trail." "Exactly. Mr. Ortiz is working on getting you released, but it's going to take a few more days. The legal process, I'm not waiting." The decision crystallized in my mind. I'd been patient. I'd been cooperative. I'd played their game. No more. "Monday," I said. "Monica always visits on Monday afternoons. When she leaves, I'm leaving with her, or right after her. Can you help me?" Bethany should have said no. Should have reported me, called security, done everything her training required. Instead, she looked at me, really looked at me, at a 71-year-old woman who'd been betrayed by her own child, and nodded. "I'll be working Monday day shift. I'll make sure there's a window, but you'll need clothes, money, my house keys. They were in my purse when I came in. Are they still in storage? I can check. She did. That night, she brought me my purse, smuggled into my room in a laundry bag. My wallet was empty. Monica had taken the cash, but my house keys were still there. And more importantly, my driver's license. Proof of who I was. Monday came. Monica arrived at 2 p.m., wearing a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than I used to spend on groceries for a month. My money. She was wearing my money. "Hi, Mom," she said, that false brightness in her voice. "How are you feeling today?" "Tired," I said. It wasn't a lie. I was exhausted. But not from dementia. From rage. "Well, I have some news that might cheer you up. We've been working on making sure you're comfortable here, and we sold the house. Can you believe it? That old place on Everett. We got such a good price for it. Now you don't have to worry about property taxes or maintenance or any of that. Isn't that wonderful?" She said it like she was doing me a favor, like she hadn't just sold my home out from under me. "Where will I go?" I asked quietly. "When I get better?" Something flickered in her eyes. Discomfort, maybe, or guilt. "Oh, Mom, you're going to be here for a while. This is what's best for you. Derek and I, we just want you safe and taken care of." Derek and I, not we, like they were a united front, and I was the opponent. She stayed for 30 minutes, talking about nothing. The weather, her job, a vacation they were planning to Maui, my money paying for all of it. When she finally left, kissing my forehead like I was a child, I watched her walk down the hallway in her expensive shoes, carrying her designer purse, playing the role of devoted daughter. I gave her 5 minutes. Then I walked out of my room. Bethany was at the nurse's station, deliberately focused on paperwork. The hallway to the side entrance was clear. Monday afternoons were shift change. Half the staff was in the break room. It was now or never. I walked steadily, not rushing, not sneaking. Just an old woman taking a walk. Through the common room, past the empty physical therapy gym, to the side door that Bethany had left unlocked. Out into the September afternoon, the air hit me like a revelation. Real air, not recycled through vents and filters. The sun was warm on my face. I stood there for a moment, dizzy with freedom, then started walking. The bus stop was 3 blocks away. I had exact change, quarters, and dimes Bethany had given me from her own pocket. The number 15 bus would take me downtown, to Benjamin's office, to Answers. I was halfway there when my phone rang. Not my phone. I didn't have my phone. But in my purse, underneath my wallet, I found a small cell phone I'd never seen before. Cheap, prepaid. Bethany must have slipped it in. "Hello? Genevieve, it's Ben Ortiz. Bethany told me you were making a move. Where are you?" "On the bus. Coming to your office." "No, don't. Come to my house instead. Monica filed a missing person report 10 minutes ago. She's claiming you're confused, dangerous to yourself. Police are looking for you." My hands shook. Of course she was. Of course she'd turn even my escape into proof of my incompetence. Ben gave me his address. A house in Laurelhurst, a quiet neighborhood with old trees and bigger yards. When I got there, he was waiting on the porch. Benjamin Ortiz was 63, sharp-eyed, with gray hair and the kind of face that inspired trust. He'd fought for me before. He'd fight for me now. "Come inside," he said. "We have a lot to talk about." His dining room table was covered in papers, documents I recognized and some I didn't. My power of attorney forged. My bank statements showing transfers I'd never authorized. A property deed my house, now in Monica and Derek's names. "How bad is it?" I asked. "Bad." They were thorough, but not perfect. Ben pulled out a folder. "The power of attorney signature is forged. I've already got a handwriting expert who can prove it. Dr. Shepard's payment from Derek is documented. The nursing home admission was filed without a second medical opinion, which is required in Oregon for involuntary commitment. And best of all," he smiled grimly, "they got greedy. They filed for your Social Security benefits to be redirected to them. That's federal fraud. That brings in the FBI. I sat down heavily. Can we get it back? The money? The house? Most of it. The house sale will be reversed. It hasn't closed yet. The bank accounts are frozen as of this morning. Some of the money they've already spent will be harder to recover. But we'll fight for every penny. He leaned forward. But Genevieve, I need to warn you. This is going to get ugly. They're going to fight back. Monica's already claiming you're delusional, that you've been manipulated by nurses who want your money. It's going to be your word against hers. It's not just my word. You have evidence. We do. But this is your daughter. Are you prepared for what that means? Criminal charges, a trial. Seeing her in court, I thought about Monica, about changing her diapers, teaching her to read, staying up all night when she had nightmares, about her wedding day, her smile, her hugs, about the woman who'd looked me in the eye and sold my house while keeping me drugged and imprisoned. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. The next 3 weeks were a blur of lawyers and police reports and judges' chambers. Monica tried to have me taken back to Riverside Manor, but Ben got a court order preventing it. I stayed in a hotel, a nice one, paid for with the small emergency fund Ben had in his office, safe for exactly these situations. Monica and Derek hired their own lawyer, an expensive one from Seattle. They claimed I was confused, that I'd willingly given them power of attorney, that they were only trying to help. They produced Dr. Shepard, who swore I'd shown signs of dementia. But we had Bethany, and we had the paper trail, and we had the FBI. The trial was in November. The courtroom was cold, formal, nothing like the TV shows I'd seen. Monica sat at the defense table in a navy suit, her hair pulled back, looking smaller than I remembered. Derek beside her, jaw tight, hands clenched. I sat on the other side with Ben. I wore my own navy suit, the one I'd worn to parent-teacher conferences and school board meetings. I was Genevieve Barrett, teacher, homeowner, competent adult, not a confused old woman. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Lisa Chen, who happened to be Bethany's aunt, which felt like the universe giving me one small gift, laid out the case with devastating clarity. The forged signatures, the payment to Dr. Shepard, the fraudulent power of attorney, the theft of $750,000, the sale of my house, the wrongful imprisonment. Bethany testified. Clear, professional, damning. She'd kept detailed notes of everything I'd told her, everything she'd found. Dr. Shepard tried to defend himself, but under cross-examination, he fell apart. He admitted he'd only spent 30 minutes with me, admitted he'd been paid by Derek, admitted his notes were thin. And then I testified. I'd been nervous, afraid I'd falter, that I'd sound confused or emotional, or like exactly what they claimed I was. But when I sat in that witness box and looked at Monica, my daughter, my betrayer, something cold and clear settled over me. I recited every detail, the fake intervention, the falsified tests, the 3 months of imprisonment, the pills I'd hidden, the overheard conversation. My voice never wavered. Monica's lawyer tried to shake me. Mrs. Barrett, isn't it possible you misunderstood? That your daughter was trying to help? No, you were on medication. Perhaps your memories are confused. I have the dates, the times, the exact words. I can recite them for you again, if you'd like. Your daughter says you'd been showing signs of memory loss for months before. My daughter is lying. The courtroom was silent. Monica was crying. Real tears, probably. She'd always been good at crying. The verdict came in after 3 days of deliberation. Guilty, elder abuse, fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit theft. The judge was an older woman, maybe 70 herself. She looked at Monica with something like disgust. You took advantage of your mother's age, she said. You exploited society's willingness to believe elderly people are incompetent. You imprisoned her, stole from her, and showed absolutely no remorse. I'm sentencing you to 5 years in prison, Mr. Hoffman. 4 years. Dr. Shepard will be forwarding charges to the medical board. You'll never practice medicine again. Monica screamed. Actual screaming, like a child. Derek just sat there, pale and shaking. Security took them away. I sat in the courtroom for a long time after everyone left. Ben waited with me, not speaking, just present. I thought I'd feel better, I said finally. You won? I know. But she's still my daughter, and she's going to prison. She made her choices. I know that too. The restitution took time. The house sale was reversed. I got it back, though it felt different now. Empty, wrong. The money was returned, minus about $50,000 they'd spent that couldn't be recovered. My bank accounts were unfrozen. My life, on paper, was restored. But you can't unbreak trust. You can't unknow that your child valued money more than your life. Monica wrote to me from prison. 3 letters in the first month. I didn't open them. Derek's parents called, begging me to show mercy, to help with an appeal. I didn't return their calls. Some people told me I should forgive her, that she was still my daughter. That family was everything. Those people didn't understand. This wasn't about forgiveness. This was about consequences. My daughter had tried to erase me, to bury me alive in a nursing home while she spent my money and lived in my house and told everyone who'd listen that she was such a devoted caregiver. She'd had me drugged, imprisoned. She'd stolen 3 months of my life and would have stolen the rest of it. You don't forgive that. You survive it, and then you make sure it never happens to anyone else. I sold the house eventually. Too many memories, and none of them good anymore. I bought a smaller place in Selwood, closer to Ben's office, with better locks and a security system and neighbors who checked on each other. I used some of the money to fund a nonprofit, Elder Justice Oregon. We helped other seniors who'd been exploited by family members. We connected them with lawyers, accountants, advocates. We pushed for stronger laws, better oversight, mandatory second opinions for nursing home commitments. Bethany became the director. She'd quit Riverside Manor the day after the trial, said she couldn't work somewhere that had failed to protect me so completely. I testified before the state legislature. I told my story to news cameras and podcasts and anyone who would listen. I wanted other families to know this could happen to you. Your competent, intelligent parent could be declared incompetent by a corrupt doctor and a greedy child. You could lose everything while the system looked the other way. On the 1-year anniversary of my escape, I visited Monica in prison. I'd told myself I wouldn't. But there were things I needed to say. She looked smaller, older. Prison aged people fast. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, no makeup, wearing gray scrubs that reminded me too much of Riverside Manor. "Mom," she said, and her voice broke. I sat across from her at the table, separated by scarred plastic and a lifetime of broken trust. "I'm not here to forgive you," I said. She flinched. "I'm here to tell you that I'm okay. I'm better than okay. I have my life back, my home, my money, my dignity, everything you tried to take from me. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know you don't believe me, but I am. It started so small. Derek said we needed the money. He said you'd want to help us. And then it got out of control. I never meant you left me in that place for 3 months. You kept me drugged. You listened to me beg to go home, and you smiled and said it was for my own good. You sold my house. You cashed out my accounts. What part of that wasn't intentional?" She was crying again. "I didn't care. I just want you to know," I continued, "that every day I wake up in my house with my money, with my freedom. And I think about how you're in here, how you lost everything you tried to steal from me, how you threw away your freedom, your career, your future, all for money you didn't earn and didn't deserve. Please. And I think it's exactly what you earned. I hope these 5 years give you a long time to think about that." I stood up. "Mom, wait. I'm not your mother anymore," I said. "I'm the woman you tried to bury, and I'm still here." I walked out. I didn't look back. Some people say I was too harsh, that I should have given her a chance, showed mercy, been the bigger person. Those people don't know what it's like to wake up in a prison you didn't deserve, drugged and dismissed and erased. I'm 72 now. I have friends. I have work that matters. I have a life that's mine, and I have no daughter. That's the price of betrayal. Not just losing what you stole, losing what you had to begin with. Monica gets out next year. She hasn't written in months. I think she finally understands I meant what I said. I don't forgive her. I don't hate her either. I just don't have room in my life for someone who saw me as nothing more than a source of money, who valued dollars more than the woman who raised her. They say blood is thicker than water. But trust? Trust is thicker than both. And once it's gone, it's gone. I think about the woman I was a year ago, trapped in Riverside Manor, drugged and frightened and helpless. I think about how close I came to losing everything. If Bethany hadn't believed me, if Ben hadn't fought for me, if I hadn't been stubborn enough, sharp enough, angry enough to fight back. I think about other women, other men who weren't as lucky, who are still trapped, still drugged, still dismissed. That's why I do this work now, why I tell this story, why I speak in courtrooms and conferences and anywhere people will listen. Because if it could happen to me, a college-educated, financially secure woman with legal connections and her wits intact, it could happen to anyone. The elderly aren't disposable. We're not convenient sources of inheritance. We're not burdens to be warehoused in facilities while our children spend our money. We're human beings, with rights, with dignity, with minds that don't expire just because our bodies age. And if you try to take that from us, we'll fight back. I did. And I won. Not because I got my money back, though I did. Not because Monica went to prison, though she did. I won because I refused to disappear. I refused to be erased. I refused to be the confused old woman they needed me to be. I'm Genevieve Barrett. I'm 72 years old. I'm competent, independent, and free. And I will never let anyone take that from me again.